Welcome to the Twat Face podcast, the world according to football and cheese experts. Just in case you're wondering, there might be some swearing. Evening, Phil.
Evening, Mike. How are you today?
Living the dream, my friend. How are you?
I am very much looking forward to this World Cup that is upcoming. So much so that I had to run to the fridge to get this drink, Mike.
That looks a little bit, dare I say, stereotypical?
You may say it.
Explain why your can of Iron Brew might be stereotypical.
Because today we're going to talk about Scotland, and I'd like to introduce a friend from our old pod, Woody, who is going to introduce himself for us all. Hi there.
Hi Phil. Hi Mike. Hi everyone. I'm Woody, and I've got my Iron Brew as well. So if it is a stereotype, then it's of course very true. As you can tell by my dulcet tones, I am a Scotsman. However, I do reside in Wales, who sadly didn't make it to the World Cup. Football-wise, so some of you may have heard me speak on the old podcast. I'm a youth grassroots football coach at a local club called Tondy United, where I coach multiple age groups. Football-wise, also my loyalties for the World Cup are very much linked to Scotland. However, my son was born in Germany, so we also have a second team there in Germany. And Rangers are my big club team, although I do have a local team in Greenock Morton as well that not everyone likes when you support two clubs, but I very much do.
Fantastic stuff. Well then, on that note, what's your first World Cup memory, Sean? Can you remember?
If we're talking Scotland specific, then I don't remember Italia 90 because I was 4 years old. But I do remember playing the video game a few years later on probably the Mega Drive at the time, perhaps. So the first Scottish World Cup is of course the last World Cup, which was World Cup 98 when I was 12 years old. And certainly at that time, I didn't think I would have a child of nearly 10 years old by the time we next made it to a World Cup. So I remember World Cup 98 quite well. So I was in high school by that point. Particularly that penalty in the first match against Brazil, and you're holding on to a draw and probably holding on to a draw pretty comfortably in that second half. And I think it all really went downhill from there, to be honest. So, that was probably the high note, that first match against Brazil, where we probably should have had a draw. Downhill from there onwards.
It's funny, I remembered running home from school myself to get to that Brazil-Scotland game. I was so sad when you couldn't hold on for it. But it was typical Scotland, a bit of everything, didn't we? We conceded in, what was it, the second, third minute, so we get to the World Cup, we're all excited, and boom, you can see the goal and you're 1-0 down right away. Then we gave ourselves some hope, and then we ultimately ended in glorious defeat. That's the Scotland way, isn't it? So it's been 1998 since the last World Cup. What's the feeling in Scotland for this one? Are you optimistic? Do you think you might get out of these group stages?
I think the expanded format clearly gives you more hope. The fact that there's an opportunity as best third place to get out of the group, clearly gives hope. And particularly when we don't start against Brazil this time, we start against the perceived weaker team in the group, which would be typical Scotland to go out and get hammered by that team. But in theory, it gives you a good chance to start very well. Get 3 points on the board, maybe score a couple of goals, and have that then in the back of your mind that sneaking another point will probably be enough to take you through at least as best third place. So I think in general, we're pretty positive ahead of it. I think when the draw happened and you saw sort of Brazil and Morocco come out, and the fact that was such a almost the exact same group as the time before, clearly it brought back memories. I'm not a massive fan of Steve Clarke, I will admit. Clearly he's got us to last few major tournaments, but has then obviously underperformed at the tournaments themselves. And I'm not sure the fact that he's just signed a new deal before the tournament is isn't necessarily the best way to go either. But there you are. So it'll be all right. We'll beat Haiti, and then we'll probably lose to Morocco. I think that's the second game, and then we'll beat Brazil 5-0. It'll be fine. We'll be all right.
Number 3 years of Steve Clarke, well deserved. Then if you
well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you can make that happen, then you can have the job for life.
Who, as a neutral, would I be watching for out of your squad, Ben? Who are the big names? I think we know a few of them from Premier League.
Well, I think it's the midfield, isn't it? So, I think if we look at Scotland's squad, we've got typical Scotland. We've got 2 of our potentially best players both play left back, in terms of Kieran Tierney and Andy Robertson. And, to be fair to Steve Clarke, he's got a system that kind of gets them both playing. So that's not too bad. But I think, if we look at our midfield, it's arguably the best midfield that Scotland have had in a generation. That's clearly where the talent is. And I think that's the disappointment for me around Clarke, is that I don't think he's got what could be got out of that midfield. So clearly Scott McTominay's there and performing incredibly well in Italy, a completely changed player from his United days, and he's going to drag the team forward, I think. But then you've got people like Billy Gilmour, he's still really young and has obviously been rewarded by playing alongside McTominay at Napoli. And then Gannon Doak, who's obviously had a bit of an injury, so I don't know how much he's going to play or not, but clearly has been exciting in the Scotland shirt so far, and has been the sort of type of player that we haven't had in years gone by. That sort of flair player that can create a moment of magic. So I think it's in the midfield. That's where you're going to see. That's the names to look out for, isn't it? So you McTominay's, Gilmour's, and Gannon Doak. But it'll be interesting to see what he does up front. Obviously Shea Adams and Dykes are his trusted players, but Shankland's probably the form player there, and it'd be good to see him play more.
So Scotland have got the opposite problem to England, where we were just talking before, but we have no left backs, and you've got 2 world class ones sitting there. Yeah. Sorry, Mike, you were saying.
No, well, I was just going to say, is it just me, or does the name Billy Gilmour sound like some sort of Boyzone cartoon magazine schoolboy hero footballer? Because he's just got that sort of name, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's a bit of a Roy of the Rovers / Billy Wiz type thing, isn't it? It's that type of name for sure.
And yet, in those cartoons, he always comes out on top and he always produces the goods. Is he going to be one of those that suddenly steps onto the world stage and just sparkles?
Well, I mean, I certainly hope so. I've always had, obviously he came through as a youth at Rangers, so I've always had a bit of a sweet spot for him. And he went down south, sort of up and down at Chelsea, and then had a really good period at Brighton, and by all accounts is doing very well across in Italy. And there's a few Scottish players that are doing well in Italy at the minute. It's a very different league to what it was, I think, maybe 5-6 years ago. But there's a few out there getting that sort of continental experience, which we didn't have. Say 5-6 years ago, your Scotland squad was full of mainly Championship players, probably. Now we're talking Premier League players playing in Italy, players that have now got over 100 caps for the country, at the top of their game. It's a much different team to what it was. But inevitably, I'm sure it'll be the same outcome, but we'll see.
Another Roy of the Rovers type story, 43-year-old Craig Gordon getting picked. A player who's actually older than me at the World Cup. I've still got hope.
Yeah, and that brings it down. I think our weakest area is our 2 centre backs, or potentially 3 if Tierney plays inside. But the centre back and the goalkeeper. It's brilliant for Craig Gordon that he's there. On a personal level for him. But how many sort of other countries at the World Cup with a desire to get out of the group stages are going to have a 43-year-old goalkeeper as probably their first choice? And that's and if you think of, we've had some real good goalkeepers in past years. It's probably never really been a problem for us. Actually now, it probably is a big problem area. And the fact that you're relying on someone of that age is a bit worrying.
So I was thinking of this in terms of England actually, but also in terms of Scotland, I guess. Is optimism part of the fun, or is that part of the problem?
Well, I don't think Steve Clark's an optimist, so that's maybe maybe he's
a problem.
So he very much sets out his stall not to lose first and then see what we can do after. And it's worked for him. I think Scotland, most Scotland fans, I think, would be incredibly optimistic to your face. We're all going to win the World Cup. We're on the march with Ali's army and so on. But then, the true Scotsman comes out and you say, yeah, we're absolutely going to, mess it up and lose all the games. But you have to approach every game. You have to approach the tournament and then every individual game, with the spirit you're going to win it. Of course you do. Otherwise, what's the point in being there? That's all part of the fun, isn't it? I'm sure Haiti will be turning up thinking they're going to smash us 5-0, and I hope that's how they're turning up and thinking about it, because that's how it should be, and yeah.
How did qualifying actually feel?
The game against Denmark was just so many highs and lows. To score so early, knowing that a win was going to take you through, was brilliant. And then as it was getting towards the end, and we conceded that equaliser, and you're just thinking, this is typical Scotland. This is what we do. We give the country that moment of hope, and then it goes wrong. But then crazy goals go in, and you're bouncing around like mad. So qualifying was, I think, after we started the group well, clearly there was a real genuine feeling that we could qualify from the group. But I think that last game gave us absolutely everything. Probably 3 of the best goals Scotland have ever scored. Your Scott McTominay, you score that overhead kick, you think it's going to be talked about forever. And then, those other goals go in later on in the game. And you're thinking, what's going on here? Could you not save that for another night? What a match that was. You can imagine, both, Scotland fans and Denmark fans up and down the whole way through it. But neutral fans watching that, that must have been an amazing game to watch.
I've got to ask the question as well. And I think I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Who are the natural rivals in the tournament for Scotland?
Well, I mean, obviously it's our friends from under the border. I haven't actually looked at the sort of pathway, but I believe there's a way where if we qualify as best runner-up, there's a chance we potentially meet around the quarterfinals or something on our way to winning it. So that would be nice, if we were to put you out at that stage, absolutely. Beyond that, I think Scotland are the tournament will be a better place clearly for Scotland being there, and we don't have many other natural rivals, I don't think. So certainly yourselves on the other side of the border, and clearly I'll be hoping you go out at the group stage. Nothing personal, gents. But I do have I got my Panama shot ready. So I got my Panama shot. I've got a Croatia one as well already. So from we spoke before, about my shot collection. So I've got Croatia already as well. I don't yet have a Ghana one, but it's nice to be at a World Cup where I don't need to have an anyone but England T-shirt, because in every other one since '98, that's what I've had to have.
Harsh, but
so as the Scotland supporters head over to the other side of the pond, how do you think they'll be received in the various home nations?
So, I mean, I think also all our group games are in America, I think, aren't they? So all our group games are in the US, and the US has a strange affection perhaps for both the Scots and the Irish, don't they? Everyone in America you speak to will be descended from one or the other. So I've no doubt that our fans will be well received. They'll be loud, they'll be singing, they'll be colourful, but they'll be spending an awful lot of money on alcohol as well, I expect. So I reckon every host city will be more than happy to welcome the Tartan Army.
Judging by American beer, they'll need to spend a lot of money just to actually catch up to the standards that we were expecting.
Well, Yeah, there is that, but I saw there's a few pubs in the whole cities already importing tons and tons of tenants just ready for the Scots coming over. So yeah, good stuff for them. I would have loved to have gone, and we had a quick look at what's possible, but the money's just crazy, isn't it? And fingers crossed we can qualify for a World Cup that's a bit closer at some time soon, and we can make that trip.
So where will you be watching the World Cup?
Well, I think certainly our group stage games. That's the trouble. Things they're all late, aren't they? So obviously I live in Wales as well, as I said. So I'm not too sure we'll have many pubs staying up late to with a later license to show the game as they would back home. So yeah, I may end up just watching the majority at home, but I'm sure I'll go around and get some of the neighbours around and have some beers still. Yeah. We'll make the most of it, but hopefully hopefully we'll progress a bit further. Some of the some of the knockout games will be a more sociable time. Get down, get out to the pub. We've got a Rangers supporters club in Cardiff, so no doubt we'll it's a sports bar in the centre of Cardiff, so no doubt we'll get some of the later games on there and get together hopefully and cheer them on.
Oh, it's incredible. That'd be really lovely. That's what I'm going to try and get Mike to do later. But does the World Cup feel nearly 2 weeks away? Do you feel like it's creeping up on you? Are you ready for it, I guess?
I think I'm ready for it. So I always do a charity sweepstake for all the major tournaments, and I just kicked that off yesterday or the day before. So that sort of tells me that it's ready. I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but I get dressed up in my shirt and tie and have all the teams and balls and so on, and full on FIFA deliver the sweepstake with stats and figures on who's in what group and when was the last time they won it and so on. So yeah, so I've kicked the sweepstake off and I've started getting all my stats and figures together. So yeah, I think that's sort of got me ready that it's almost World Cup time. But yeah, certainly the kick-off times do take something away from it, I think. But it just means I'm going to be incredibly tired every day.
And two dodgy places to have World Cups then, really, for the last two. So
well, yeah, I was kind of I remember the sort of the playoff for the last World Cup and thinking, is this the one we actually want to qualify for? Maybe we'll save it for another one. But this one's been just as difficult, I think, for different reasons. But I mean, the football is spread out massively, isn't it? So I think I was having a look at the fixtures, and on the second Saturday you could start watching a game at 6 o'clock in the evening, and the final game finishes at 7 o'clock the next morning. So you've got 13 hours of football potentially you can be watching there. So and at least that's over a weekend, so you can just justify being incredibly tired the rest of the day.
And just so that we are living up to the name of the podcast as well, if you could travel over to the home nations for this tournament and bribe an official to get into a match, what cheese would you be bribing them with?
I will disappoint you, gents, that I'm not a massive cheese guy. So I'm very much a straight up cheddar and pretty basic sort of person.
An English cheese? Is that an English cheese I just heard you say?
But I do like a bit of Leerdammer, so maybe Leerdammer we'll go with just to be a little bit different.
You've derailed me, Mike, with the cheese question. I think I'm done. Please tell our listeners how they can get involved with your sweepstake. Why not have a little bit of promotion while we're here?
Yeah, I can do. So the sweepstakes for charity, and the charity is Lamau, although I'm sure my Welsh colleagues will tell me off how I pronounce that. But it's a homeless charity here in Wales which focuses on women and young children, and obviously trying to get them out of homelessness or indeed prevent it happening in the first instance. So it's nice and simple. We're doing all the teams for £5. I think I just sold out, but I've also had more demand than normal, so I'm probably going to double it up. So yeah, if people are listening in, just reach out to the pod on the socials, and then I'll connect from there. And yeah, by all means get involved. But like I said, I do give it the big effort. I go on Facebook Live, full draw, all the stats and figures. So no half measures here. No computerized sweepstakes. I do my best to make it as well. I mean, the FIFA draw lasts 4 hours, so I don't make it last 4 hours. I focus on the good part, and sadly, I've not got any ex-players who are going to turn up and give me some random nonsense about their memories of the World Cup. But apart from that, the good part, where you pull the names out of the hat, is worth a watch.
Are you going to give out a peace award while you're there, or
a peace award? Well, certainly, I certainly don't think I'll be handing out any peace awards to Donald Trump. But maybe I'll hand you gents out a peace award for not reacting to the Panama shirt or the anyone but England jibes. For receiving that in such good humour, we can hand out a peace award to the podcast.
Well, a man who gives English cheese precedence. I mean,
yeah. Well, I don't know. Is there a Scottish cheese? Like, I should know that. I'm sure there's some versions, but yeah, I'm not a big cheese man. You guys can have the cheese, and I'll just continue drinking the beer and the whiskey.
I think we've got the wrong end of that trade somehow.
Well, on that note, we will let you go for this evening. But if Scotland progress, start having a good tournament, I think we'll have you back on, and we'll catch up to see what's going on in this World Cup.
So I'll expect to be speaking to you again then, gents, because of course we are going to progress.
Fabulous. I look forward to it. Have a good tournament. Enjoy the group stage. We'll catch you on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, enjoy your tournament, but don't win anything.
I mean, we'll probably do as best.
Thanks for having us on, gents. Take care.
Cheers, Woody.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Cheers to that.
I do like Woody.
Amazing as always. Why is it that, like, I want Scotland to win all the Scottish haters?
It's one of those things, one of those idiosyncrasies, and I think it's probably because we are colonisers at heart. Is that any of the colonies, we support our colonies because they feed us and give us their wealth. So, I mean, Scotland are a beaten nation. They work for us now. So, but sorry, it's an Al Murray line. It's a very good line. But anyway, no, I mean, we love to see all of the home nations, don't we? And I think if you ask anybody in England, once England had qualified, they would want to see Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland all in there as well, because they just want to see them all doing well. Obviously, in any head-to-head tournament, England are going to take precedence, but if you can get them as far as possible, any England supporter would do that, and it's just the way we are, because we're wonderful,
Isn't it? Well, on that note, I'll see you next time, Mike.
Cheers, Phil.
Bye.